Let's talk about this story from Daily Mail. Putin issues threat to U.S. Vladimir says we will deploy more than tanks and warns we have friends on the American continent. Apparently, they're saying that he's brought the nuclear football with him, the Russian version of it, and he's making a direct threat to the United States over we're sending these tanks, or German tanks are being sent to Ukraine. Basically, it's NATO. It's all the same thing. And if they use depleted uranium cores or something like, or uranium cores in general, he will consider that nuclear war. Mm-hmm. So China, Russia, how close are we? You think?
Well, I do think it's funny that that every once in a while, if I tweet something about, hey, you should have emergency food, or you should be preparing, or you should have a good pillow to sleep on every night.
When you're in the look, post-apocalyptic world, buildings are falling apart. You're gonna wish you had a good pillow.
You're gonna wish that how could you stay awake at night? And keep in mind that just a couple of days ago, Mike Lindell prepared for this. That out of nowhere, Mike Lindell has been working on a secret project to design and just dropped MyPillow 2.
Is that why they floated the balloon? They're trying to figure out what he's
They're trying to make it they don't want it to just get to Montana. They want to get to Minnesota.
Right, it's on
because
route.
They're trying to get the secret technology. Ilhan Omar's clearly involved. This is why that when she got kicked off, the Chinese are responding to her being kicked off because she was supposed to be working in with the pillow conspiracy, working in conjunction with the reverse vampires, that they wanted to steal the technology from MyPillow 2.
That's the problem with
we can't allow this.
Xi Jinping is sitting in an office room with like all of his commanders and generals, and they've got a bunch of MyPillows, and he's like, how? And he slams the table.
怎么会有MyPillow？第二个我不知道。这个 Mike Lindell 的话。
But no, go back to your point. You're saying when you tell people to get emergency food and take the stuff seriously.
Right, I say take it seriously, and then they call you crazy, they call you Tim Foyle, and then you turn on the news, and Putin's talking about nuking the United States and Brussels and London and everything else. China's got spy balloons over Montana, over our nuclear arsenals, where we scrambled F-22, our most advanced fifth-generation fighter. But you're crazy for wanting some, a little bit of extra food supply for your family to have in the garage or the
I was warning everybody.
You
gotta buy chickens.
That's right.
You gotta get chickens. And now there's an egg shortage.
I tweeted this. And you were the guy.
Yeah, it's funny. So we normally have like 180 eggs just stacked on the counters because we're getting like 30 per day. And then when the egg shortage hit, one day I come into the office, the building, the studio, and I look in the kitchen and they're all gone. Like I'm constantly telling the people who work here, like, guys, take some eggs with you because we have two men. You got to eat them. And like some are getting like 2 weeks old. Now I don't need to say anything. The egg shortage hit, and people took those eggs.
I think that coincided with Luke Rutkowski leaving the office. He may or may not have taken a few eggs.
All of our eggs go missing.
Didn't they say it was something to do with the chicken feed?
No, it was a flu.
Yeah. It was
avian
flu
or something is killing these birds.
I've also heard Purina. People were like, "Don't buy Purina." I don't know if Purina is doing anything right or wrong.
There was something about chicken feed. You're right.
No, I thought there was something about like there was a chicken feed and it was like a central issue, and then that hurt a lot of chickens, and then they went down, which led to supply chain issues. Like, guys,
chickens are great.
Think about how bad our country is at this point when we're living through the collapse of complex systems every day, and we fail at just basic maintenance of our supply chains and pretty much everything, where we can't even do eggs anymore. We can't even handle eggs.
People watch. So I just finished watching 1883. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, and it's funny because I know my wife is watching, and sweetheart, you're the reason that we haven't watched it yet.
But
you should watch it.
But I do want to.
But just seeing people who are right. So,
but
I'm not going to spoil.
I had to introduce her to Chevy Chase first.
It's like a year and a half, 2 years old already. Right. So, but I'm not going to spoil anything because some people may not have seen it. But there's just many things that happen where you're like, man, I can't believe they couldn't deal with that problem. Mm-hmm. It's like I'll give you an example. It's like, oh, I stubbed my toe. Is it bleeding? Guess I'll die. Nowadays, it's like we have a ton of things you can do. We're not worried about infection. We wash it with soap, usually fine. You can then maybe put antiseptic on it, usually fine. Like, did they not? They didn't even know to put whiskey on their wounds. I guess they did they? Like,
some people did and some people didn't. I mean, it wasn't universal knowledge. Like, I'm listening to this podcast.
Well, this is the Civil War.
Yeah,
right.
Well,
issue.
Splash some whiskey on the wound. He's good.
Right. It sounds like a joke, but like, it would actually work. I'm listening to this podcast about the Kennedy family and just like about the children, their race, whatever. And they had one daughter who was like severely mentally handicapped, and
They
eventually
lobotomized her.
lobotomized
Yeah.
her. And the podcast hosts
Eunice.
were Rosemary.
Oh, Rosemary. Yeah.
Eunice was her sister,
Eunice
so
was
I'm
the sister.
super
Okay,
into
got
this
it,
right
got it.
now. She's the one who like cared for her and eventually started the Special Olympics. But the podcast hosts, these two girls who are doing it, were saying like, it seems obvious to us that we're like, don't let her get the lobotomy. But at the time, fewer than 100 people had gone through the surgery. There was a chance it was cutting edge. They said it worked so well. And it's this crazy gamble, which did not work, made her much worse, was
Yep.
terrible in the end. But like, this is this whole, it's easier for us to look back on 1883 or these time periods where it was all experimental. They didn't know how they were going to
Well,
survive.
see-
They just needed to.
See, I always think about, what are people going to say about the 2020s, 50 years from now, 100 years from now? What are they going to go back and say, oh my gosh, these people kept radioactive microwave ovens in their homes.
Yeah.
They put food in them, or whatever it is
Yeah.
that
Well-
they look back. You could have lived to be 200 years old. Why
But
would you do this?
Here's the scary thing. So watch 1883. Watch The Last of Us, and there's a scene in The Last of Us that is also very good, where Ellie and Joel are walking down the street, and then she's like, they see a crashed plane, and she's like, "Did you used to ride in those?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Wow, that's so cool. You
Yeah.
got to go in the sky." And he goes, "Didn't seem like it at the time." And that's the main point with all this stuff, this threat of war. People need to realize what makes it possible for us to. I got two monitors right in front of me. We have TV up on the wall. I could never make one of these in my entire life. If someone came to me and said, "I will give you $1 billion, make a TV," I'd be like, "I guess I buy glass and plastic. I don't metal. How I'm not going to be able to make this. It's crazy."
Yeah.
You need all of the people and all the different specialties. So as infrastructure starts collapsing, or if war really does kick off, there's going to be little things that you once thought were so stupid and mundane.
Right.
You're going to be begging for, and that's why I've often said, when we're talking about this or civil war or otherwise, think about something that's extremely common and useful in your house, but also extremely difficult to synthesize. What do you think that is? And then buy it. I was thinking, is it maybe mouthwash? How hard is it to make it? It's not really that hard to make alcohol. So maybe not. But I'm thinking like, I don't know anybody. I know people who could probably make alcohol, like whiskey or something. You could figure it out. But like a harsher antiseptic, like, what we have with mouthwash, although whiskey probably works. But what do you guys think that is? Like
soap. I'm doubling down on soap.
I think
I'm
soap.
bullish on
Soap
soap.
actually
make
is
it pretty
relatively
easy.
easy to make.
Yeah, just saponify some oils.
What's that? Just
Use saponify oils, hence the word soap.
sip on a fire oils? What do you?
Saponify oils.
Oh, okay.
What if you have children? Milk.
Oh, that's a good
Food
point.
in general.
I mean, that
food
was
in
the thing with
general.
the baby
Yeah.
formula shortage, right?
Right.
Like all of a sudden we hit this point where it was
that's
critical.
crazy. People didn't understand that babies can't just eat stuff.
Well, this is where you got
Give
those
a baby a
stories.
nice big steak. Not
And,
gonna
and,
work.
I'll, and I'll, since I threw Tanya under the bus a second ago, I'll do her a favor, because she was tweeting about that story where this mother was trying to, brought her baby into an ER. I forget exactly where it was. And the baby was completely malnourished. And she said, "I don't understand. I feed her milk every day."
But it was almond milk,
And it was
right?
almond milk. And she said, "Well, yeah, because we're vegan. And so we're trying to raise the baby vegan." And they were like, "This baby is in danger of dying. It's severely malnourished. You can't just make up these decisions. I mean, there's a very specific set of nutrients that especially young children need."
Yeah, and especially with that argument, like if you're a vegan and you're saying, "Oh, giving my kids cow's milk is disrupting the cow's natural system," like you're not stopping the cow's baby from drinking its milk. Why would you stop your baby from drinking milk you specifically produce for it? Like it's illogical, but it's just so ideological in this idea that, well, we're vegan, so nothing produced by animals. Which
Vitamin
doesn't
C.
make any sense.
Where do you get your vitamin C? We get it from China.
Yeah.
No joke. That's crazy.
You'd have to.
So I ordered. We
grow
ordered.
carrots.
I think we ordered a bunch of buckets.
That's
of,
good.
of powdered
Oh, yeah.
vitamin C.
Yeah.
They make it from black mold.
Wow, that's
Yeah, they're
weird.
weird.
Yeah, carrots. You think? Is that what you said?
Carrots. You need. I mean, if you've
Peppers
got.
have it.
I actually live.
Rose hips. Yeah.
I do live on a lake, so we've got fish. We can
Fish has vitamin C in it.
No, but they have fish oil.
Yeah.
So you can at least, and they've got vitamin B12. They've got
That's-
a bunch of stuff in there.
This is the
Zinc.
crazy thing to me watching 1883. They're like, well, we got beef, so we got food. And I'm like, you just live off of beef that's it? You like what? You don't need anything. Like that's it. That's crazy.
And they think they have like small amounts of like stuff that they had like preserved beforehand, right? Like for me, I can't say what substance I would like want to know how to make, but I just generally would like to get better at like jarring things or preserving food, right? Because if you can grow all kinds of fresh food, that's great. But if you can't make it last the winter, then come any kind of apocalypse, you're done.
But keep in mind, Tim, that our society today, as it currently stands, is the aberration. What we're talking about is the last 10,000 years of human history was exactly that. It was, where are the plentiful forests where I can go and hunt game? And then obviously agriculture comes along, and okay, we're gonna have towns, we're gonna have society, we're gonna have civilization. But when society breaks down, the question is, since we've become so accustomed to living this type of life that we have, which is extremely luxurious, that we don't have the ability to just fend for ourselves, basically. And I think with Last of Us, that's a great example. You mentioned that thing about the plane, they see a plane crash, right? And I think about it when a couple of years ago, I took my kids to Cape Canaveral, and I remember they have one of the last space shuttles, I think it's the Atlantis, they have in the warehouse there. That it's in the museum, but you can go see it. And I remember thinking, when I was a kid, we had spaceships, and we had this thought, particularly in the 90s, prior to 9/11, that it was going to be spaceships, and then the next thing was going to be colonies, and then we were just going to keep pushing out for the lunar colony first, and then Mars was going to be next, and we were just going to keep going. And this was our destiny, right? This is the way we're going to work on things now, and that somewhere along the line, 9/11 happens, we decide to invade the Middle East, then we decide to invade more of the Middle East that wasn't involved in 9/11, then further countries that had nothing to do with the Middle East. Now we're in Eurasia because we've always been at war with Eurasia. And we don't seem to have ever gotten back to that basic idea of human progress.
Did you watch that video that went viral recently on Twitter where it's a high school workout in 1962? And all the young men are like basically in boot camp.
Yeah.
They're doing... Man, they're swinging from those bars. I don't know what they're called. Like they're holding their own body weight.
Monkey bars?
It's not monkey bars. They're
like vertical.
Yeah, they're vertical.
Wow, Ian. Wow.
I
really dropped the ball on that one.
Really just.
But man,
you can stream, man.
We
rolling poles.
I don't know what happened to this country, but I kind of feel like the night is always darkest before the dawn. And so as long as you are working on being self-sufficient.
DAWN or DON?
Before the dawn.
Ooh.
The dawn.
The night.
The night is always darkest before it becomes orange.
I mean, that's actually a really interesting thing you just mentioned. The dawn is orange, and so is the dawn.
That's right.
And the night is always darkest before the dawn comes back. I'm just saying, whatever happens, if you're self-sufficient, if you get out of the cities, if you get some chickens and maybe a couple goats or something, you'll be okay.
If you keep your chickens safe, That's a big
Bro, I'm
deal.
telling you, it's gonna you like if it really does hit the fan and war breaks out. I'm not talking about infrastructure collapse or societal collapse. I'm talking about the U.S. government saying we all have to pitch into the war effort, so we're taking all of the copper, we're taking all of the steel. The eggs are being shipped off to the troops, so you're not going to have eggs. You're going to be eating rice and beans if you're lucky.
Bread. They'll love to sell the bread.
They're going to say eat the bread, eat corn. They're going to say eat the corn.
This is Victory Gardens.
And then what's going to happen is,
remember?
You're gonna be sitting in your living room, and then all of a sudden you're gonna hear, and you're gonna go what? And you're gonna run out and you're gonna go, Ma, something's getting the chickens, and it's gonna be a guy in a flannel shirt with a handlebar mustache and suspenders running while Peter, Bjorn, and John is playing, and he's like, I'm just so hungry, and you're gonna be like, drop my chicken. It's gonna be, and then there's gonna be a bunch of other hipsters running around with him.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the hipsters from the city who are like, these people are crazy. I don't need to leave my lifestyle. I can stay in my one-bedroom apartment. No chickens for me.
They're going to steal your chicken and try and eat it.
I saw a tweet from Dash Dobrovsky, who I actually want to like a lot. I don't know him, but it said...
That's a work, right? That guy's not serious.
I can't tell. He is an actor.
He's got to be an actor.
But the statement he said...
He's literally an actor.
Like a child actor.
He's been on a bunch
Hollywood.
of TV shows. He was his first appearance, I think, was on Jay Leno.
So
his whole thing's a bit.
He might be doing a
it's gotta
character
be a
for
bit.
class. But his tweet was
a little over the top for me, but I appreciate his tweets. I really like his tweets.
I find it entertaining, but the tweet today was, or from yesterday, men who use guns aren't real men.
That's all
What
that.
the hell is he
Right,
talking
right.
He's
about?
talking about Ukraine. He's basically saying that he hates Ukraine and that anyone in Ukraine is not a real man because they shouldn't have guns. They should be surrendering to Russia.
It's maybe it's a joke, maybe it's hyperbolic.
The force of their testosterone would be able to stop
spray
the
it.
Russian
They
army
spray it.
I just
in
assumed
winter.
he meant like you fight with your hands. Guns
Ian,
are.
it's because he's not a real personality. He's so Nuance Bro actually did a big takedown on him, showing his IMDb track record, like the movies, the TV shows he's been in, the things he's filmed. It's a bit. He's a clout chaser.
I see.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he really doesn't truly believe everything he
And
says. It's kind of a short-sighted
So
statement.
does that mean Alec Baldwin isn't a real man?
Yes.
Baldwin turns
and
out.
let me give a special
he's-
shout out
he's as
again
real as they
to
come.
I want to give a special shout out to Hassan and his fans, because when I did a video saying that Hassan Piker was correct about the cataract surgeries, that
Mr. Beast thing?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
he was like, this fills me with rage that we just don't give these people these things, and I was like, yeah, I agree. It's like we're spending all this money on war and stuff.
I think he missed something though.
When I said we spent $100 billion on Ukraine,
Right.
Hassan's response was to start laughing and then offer up no critique as to why what I said was wrong. And his fans all started calling me stupid. And they said, before that, I was right.
Yeah.
But as soon as I said, don't support Ukraine with our money, all of a sudden I'm wrong. These people are, I call them neocons. You know, it's like neocon, but communist.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said comics.
Neocon.
Neocomical.
They want, they're communists, but they want foreign intervention and war.
But you know what?
So
I
they're
don't
basically
think-
like John Bolton and Hassan Piker probably get along really well on the
I don't think
question of
Hassan
how
wa-
to solve the Ukraine
I don't think
crisis.
he wants war. I think he was pissed because he thinks that what you're doing is deferring to conservative agitprop, as he refers to it as. Like, yeah, the blindness thing is ridiculous that we're not helping blind people. But then when
No,
you mention
bro, he's
Ukraine, he's
lying.
like, why are you talking about conservative news all
What
of a sudden?
conservative news?
Just Ukraine. In his mind, it's like a conservative
he
thing.
literally says in that clip, the military industrial complex is the problem and we shouldn't be giving them our money. And that's literally what I said. $100 billion going into foreign wars in countries that are not on our border.
I think it was Pakistani gender studies.
You know, there's a meme about
and
this.
that
was
right?
the crux.
The starter
Right.
pack of I'm edgy, but it's okay to tweet these things.
And then he agreed with me and says they're doing that gender studies thing as a liberal PR. So he basically agrees with my points, but then rallies his followers to attack because it's not real commentary.
tragic.
Real commentary is when Hassan says, I'm filled with rage watching this Mr. Beast thing. And then I say, I see a lot of people criticizing Hassan, but I agree with him that we're spending $100 billion overseas in war, that we spent $10 million on gender studies in Pakistan, when a single dollar of that could have gone towards medical care in this country. He then agrees with those points because he has to, but then insults me, derides me, and then rallies his followers against me who start insulting me because it's not real commentary. Real commentary would be assessing the political position, analyzing it, and then either agreeing or disagreeing and making your statement, not just going ha 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 ha. He thinks we should be at war in Ukraine. But anyway, that's my point about Dabrowski. I don't want to go off on.
But I do have an interesting
Hassan.
Similar take to Hassan, but I think, and it's more in line with what you're saying, that it's not just Ukraine though, because what you're dealing with, and I think what a lot of people were dealing with the response to Mr. Beast was cognitive dissonance. It was a classic textbook case of cognitive dissonance, because here comes a guy who just fronts the money for this surgery and is able to cure 1,000 people's blindness in seemingly overnight, in an instant.
And it costs about $6,000 per surgery.
And think about what we've been doing as a country for the last 3 years. It's been crisis after crisis after crisis, where the media, your favorite influencers, your government officials are telling you that you must care about the current thing. The current thing is the most important thing in the world, the going thing, they used to call it in the UK, that this must be dealt with, and it doesn't matter how much it costs, whether it be diversity and systemic racism, whether it be COVID, and we must defeat COVID, and we must have the vaccine mandates. It has to be this. It has to be done. And anyone against us is part of the problem. And of course, you remember Biden giving speeches about this. And now that thing is war in Eurasia. We've always been at war in Eurasia. It must be this. And suddenly, so there's that moment of clarity where it's like the Principal Skinner meme, right? Of, am I out of touch? And then immediately it comes right back that, no, it must be the children who are wrong. That's cognitive dissonance.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.